So please help me welcome Tara Jepsen and Michelle T.
Hi, you guys. I'm Michelle. This is Tara Jepsen, the author of Like a Dog.
Yes.
This is a wonderful novel.
It is an
and I remember, because me and Tara are friends, I remember when she first said she was going to write this novel. And then she wrote it.
Taking a photo.
You what?
Andrea was taking a photo, so I was trying to look good.
Really like. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. All right. Is it good? It's good. And it was such a great book, and I just remembered it. And then me and Tara had a big fight, and we talked for like a year, and it was so sad. And I just kept thinking, I was trying to get a publishing imprint going with this press, and I was like really wanted to publish it, even though we weren't friends, because it was such a good book. And I was like, maybe that'll be awkward. But then it didn't happen anyway, because it was a gay publisher, and so they went under, like all gay publishers do. And then when this happened, this thing with City Lights and Sister Spit, it was immediately one of the books that I wanted to do, because it's so great. And I was like, hey, Tara, 'cause we're friends again forever. And I was like, do you still have that book? Like, could I publish it? And now it's in the world. It's so exciting. And I have so many questions to ask her, and you will too. But first, she's going to read a piece of it right now.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle.
Oh, Tara.
Is this the least culturally inappropriate outfit you've ever seen on a middle-class white woman? This is it. This is the zenith of what I'm supposed to do. Hi, guys. Hi. Swim team friends. Okay. So I'm going to start in this part. So my main character, Paloma, is up in Arcata, California, and she and her brother are up there. And her brother is doing some weird stuff, but they go to a bar one night called the Dong Show, and then how much does a person really need to know? Essentially, so this guy, Oscar, takes them on a drive in his car, and she can't really tell if it's going to be, it feels wrong to her. She can't tell what's going on, but it doesn't feel quite right to her. Okay. We're in Oscar's car, which is an old Chevy Cavalier. I like to say Cavalier. That's what they would say in Montreal. Okay. It's an old Chevy Cavalier, grayish blue. There's dog hair everywhere. I sit in the back and stare out the window, watching lights fly by, and then just deep country darkness, stars. My feet are planted in a footwell sea of empty paper cups and plastic soda bottles. You know, I'm afraid of reading too long.
You won't.
Okay. Nicely done. Okay, we drive for what must be at least half an hour. I check into the conversation in the front seat when I hear Peter say, "Where are you going?" And I realize that being in the country doesn't make sense with going to a bar. There are no lights or stores or houses. Going to get gas at that cheap place out here. Really? Peter says. Yeah, it's $1 less per gallon than the places in town, he says, and chuckles to himself. I want to say something that makes everything normal, but I'm scared. I can't figure out a logical reaction because the feeling of drunkenness keeps washing over me. We come up to a gas station and Oscar pulls off the road. There is a low cement wall that is painted with an ocean scene, a big dolphin at the center. Oscar rolls up to a gas pump and does not turn off the car. He looks straight ahead and says, "How much money do you have?" "I don't know," Peter says, and meets Oscar's gaze. "Give me your fucking wallet and your phone." Oscar is utterly impassive. Pete doesn't do anything but stare at Oscar. "Don't make this fucking ugly, dude. Don't make me do something that's going to suck in front of your sister. Give me your goddamn wallet and phone." Peter pulls out the beat-up leather wallet my dad gave him for Christmas years ago and throws it into Oscar's lap. Oscar opens it up and looks at the bills. Peter reluctantly hands over his phone, too. $43, huh? You're rich. Here, go get me a Twix. Oscar throws $2 at my brother. Peter opens his door and gets out of the car, so I do too. I walk next to him and we go into the mini-mart, and sure enough, we hear Oscar drive away. "Dude," Peter says with deep seriousness. I don't say anything because I'm experiencing an internal refusal to connect with reality. "We're screwed," he says, and a long smile stretches across his face. That's a fucking long walk. "Do you have your phone?" I check and find that I left my phone at the motel. We both start laughing, and then we can't stop. Everything seems hilarious. Being abandoned, the bright lights, the rows of candy, the beef jerky, the lighters and the antifreeze, the half-obscured issues of Jugs. By the time we pay, we both have tears rolling down our cheeks from laughter. We buy a lot of candy with my money. My pockets are lumpy and misshapen with crappy chocolate, and when we step out into the night, it is just us and a walk to town. Why exactly did we get ditched? Well, I guess he chose the anger option over the getting our business back option. Oh, yeah, because they went up to work in this trim room in town, and hi, so they went up to there to work in this trim room, and this guy Oscar supplied them with all the plants that they're growing with, but then he kind of gets pushed out of the business, so he's bummed. All right. We walk along the road, 2 lanes of asphalt and no lights. The shadows are dark and wet off to the side, surrounded by trees, and light from a half moon falls on the road in front of us. I link arms with Peter, and we walk that way for a long time, taking in the darkness and merging with the silence. Pete? Yeah. Should I be worried that you're not, sober anymore? He's quiet for a moment. I got this. Don't worry about me. Okay, I say, even though I strongly suspect it is not. We walk for an hour and a half, and I'm guessing we see... We're walking for an hour and a half, I'm guessing, and we see a bright sign ahead. It says, liquor. I have exactly $14 left, so we have to make this count. We pick out a couple of Pabst tall boys, and I pay the dude at the counter. How far are we from town, Peter asks. Which one, the guy asks. Ukiah. Oh, about 16 miles. Fuck. I burp involuntarily. I kind of hope it will make the guy smile, but he is impervious to my body's jokes. A guy behind us in line, maybe 25 years old with a backwards baseball hat, asks, You having car trouble? We're walking, and it's way further than we thought, I say. I can take you to town if you want. Promise I won't kill you. Fortunately, he has the right audience for this joke. We ride with the guy, whose name is Terrence, into town. It's such a relief to have the help I could cry, but instead I drink my tall boy in the back seat and watch the darkness pulse outside. Peter and I finally arrive at our motel. The parking lot in front of my room is dark, and the pavement is wet. When I reach into my pocket for my key, it's just not there, which is no surprise. I walk over to the office to see if I can get another. The glass door is propped open, and when I walk in, there's an old guy with white hair and beard and mustache pacing the room and smoking. He wears glasses with thin metal frames, a serial killer vibe, like so many white guys. From the smell of things, I gather he's been lighting one cigarette off the other for hours, maybe his whole life. The lobby is various shades of taupe. There is a dusty basket of fake flowers on the counter next to a bell. A large painting of a little girl walking a schnauzer down a cobblestone street is on the wall. I like imagining them picking it out at a flea market. Hey, I lost the key to my room. Can I get another? Without a word, he hands another key over. I grab it and run out like I robbed him. I pretend he's chasing me all the way back to my room. Peter stands waiting for me. Weirdo, he says. When we're inside, Peter cracks open 2 beers for each of us. I start pulling my pants down on the way to the bathroom and walk in with my jeans around my ankles, underwear sagging on my butt, and leave the door open while I pee for what seems like 10 minutes. Hold my calls, I yell and sip my beer. In at the top, out at the bottom. I lay my head on my knees and wait. I look at the little tiles on the floor. I see the shape of a lion's head, a dumb daisy, a UFO, a cake stand. When I walk out, Peter hands me another beer, even though the 2 I have aren't finished. Let's go swim in that pool, he says. The pool fence is locked with a big chain, so we start climbing over it, each of us holding 3 beers. I'm really proud of our gusto. I tuck 2 of my cans in the back of my jeans, 1 in each pocket. Good thing I'm wearing the hugest pair of crappy corduroys known to man. As I climb, the open beer sloshes onto the butt of my jeans and soaks all the way through to my skin. The cool air grazes my face. The cool air grazes my warm face softly like a liquid soft lady hand. A long lady model hand slathered in Jean Nateer loves baby soft. The night sky is full of stars, visible even over the bright light of the motel sign. By the side of the pool, Peter and I strip down to our underwear. We enter the water carefully, using the stairs so we can swim with our beer. I drift around the pool blissfully. I use one hand to paw at the warm water, and I hold the other in the air to keep my drink aloft, a sloppy side stroke. I love the bluish light on my brother's face. His is such a complicated heartache. I love the quiet. If I don't concentrate or clamp down on my brain for any reason, I can feel like right now is beautiful and perfect. One thing that I do but don't want to do is heavily psychoanalyze about how Peter ended up this sad, angry donkey drug addict. There were plenty of betrayals from our young parents, and there was violence in the house and all that stuff you hear people pointing to when they are trying to describe why they are a certain way. Picking someone apart is a stupid distraction, and I'm not sure Freudian psychology has all the answers. Why does the effort to understand each other somehow preclude an acceptance of complexity? How can you be shitty and great at one time? How can you love me and still steal my money? All right, I'm done. I already feel gross trying to articulate this stuff. After 2 beers, I start to feel faint and weird. My mind goes fuzzy, and I let myself drop down to the bottom of the pool, sinking and sinking while water fills my mouth. I feel so weightless that I become disoriented and I can't get to the surface. I keep reaching and trying to maneuver, but nothing feels right. The noiselessness of water swaddles me. I dated a girl, very crazy, who says she always wished that she was a shark because it's so peaceful underwater. What was the mental soundtrack to her waking life? I imagine nonstop subway breaks in her ears. As I sink everywhere I look, I see the same shade of blue, a jet, air, sky, wall, chlorine, California dream, down to sleep at night. I let go and wait for the bottom to catch me. There is a tunnel of relief, feeling the bottom catch you. Suddenly I'm pulled up by my shirt and Peter drags me to the side of the pool. I grab onto the concrete edge and gasp while I wait for my head to clear. Peter watches me wordlessly and drinks his beer. My face hurts from coughing. Big repulsive veins in my face are all I feel, with a tree trunk of snake belly throat. Don't do that, Peter says. Don't drown. Eventually our teeth chatter and we go back to our respective rooms for hot showers. It takes superhuman strength to remove my clothes and get in the shower. My body. I feel like a pair of nylons filled with old shoes. I try not to look at myself in the mirror usually, which is probably sad or not self-loving somehow. If I look, I'll start picking myself apart and finding things to feel bad about, so it's easier not to start. When I climb into my bed with my hot skin, I run my feet all over the cool, coarse cotton, and it feels so good. My head spins. I turn on the TV where there are more forensic files. I guess as long as women are being murdered by their boyfriends, they will keep making shows. I watch for a few minutes, then roll over on my face and drop out. I sleep deep, drunk sleep until 5 in the morning when I wake up and can't fall back in. I try but can't because the booze is worn off and nausea and shame churn in my guts. I'm naked.
Oh my God, no, it was great. It was so great.
Thank you for listening. I know it's a lot to listen to a lot of words in a room.
I think everyone here can handle it. They may even come especially for it. You guys, there's so many seats up here.
Yeah,
don't be afraid.
Down.
You won't get splashed if you sit in the front row.
No one's smashing any watermelons tonight.
No, not tonight.
Another night, yes.
That was so great. I love your writing so much, and I love how you get really deep and like super, super thinky and intellectual, and then it's like almost this like gleeful like fart joke type of humor that you just kind of like skid out of it. And do you know that you're doing that? Like, do you feel like when you're writing that you're trying to achieve a deliberate balance between sort of being really heady and intellectual and being really sort of like almost slapsticky and physical with your language?
I think that it's the drive that I have. I think those are the two things that I love most. I like really dark, messed up stuff, and I love to josh about. And so I think that's at this point the way that like my internal monologue goes, the way that the rhythm of my life goes. Like, yeah. So I am aware of it. And when I was writing this, I really wanted to write stuff that was rooted in the body. Like, I kept thinking about how, because part of this story takes place skateboarding and because I skateboard, I thought a lot about, like, how do I write from the experience of a body? Because I will sort of naturally default to, like, intellectualizing about shit and like, giving my great ideas about everything. But how do I describe an experience from being in a body?
I wanted to ask you about that, too, because there's so much skateboarding and you write about it in such a great way, and it is so it's so completely a physical experience, and just being your friend. Oh, am I breaking this? Yes, I feel myself breaking it. Just being your friend and knowing you, I know that the physicality of skateboarding is such like a relief for you, and it operates like that. So did you have any tricks, or like what was the process like for you to try to talk about skateboarding in a way that like kept it embodied but like brought it into a narrative?
I wanted to at some point, like, letting my thoughts just kind of spaz out and not over editing that, because a lot of times I found even when we were doing readings in San Francisco, I would get this like feedback often that when I spoke extemporaneously, that there was like something that came out when I wasn't overthinking. So I tried to put in as many of those like lesser examined moments as I could in there. But then I also was like, but if truth is actually your body and the way that your body moves much more than the words that you say, how do I write a story that is a description of body's behavior, of the nature of how you use your limbs, how you use your body? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, yes.
And Tara is sort of famous for the way that she sort of like interrupts herself while she's doing readings and like ends up going on strange tangents that have nothing to do with the book and then comes back to
I try not to do that too much when I was just reading now because it was just so long.
It's great. It's so great. And I love that you know that about yourself and actually worked to incorporate that into the novel.
Jenny Joseph was it in San Francisco who used to run this open mic
Poetry Above Paradise.
I don't even like her that much, but she did say one time that she was like, these things that seem to come to your mind are really good. They're good additions. You just try to fold them into your writing. So that's what I was trying to do, is just be like, oh, don't check those things and be like, oh, that's just the weird fucking around I do on the side. But be like, maybe that is part of my true voice or like my narrative.
And then you crafted a narrator that does that. So you gave yourself all that space. And I think also by making her an aspiring comedian, you kind of created this pocket in the book for you to put all of these kind of things. It works so great.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, because I know you started you started writing this book a while ago, and the first version of it was really different than this version. I wanted to ask you, I mean, in the time in between, you've changed, the world's changed, and so like how did you approach the book again when you knew it was going to be published, and like what was your intention when you sat back down with it?
So my relationship with my brother is a central thread to this book. And so when I wrote about that the first time, over 10 years ago, I had a certain perspective on that. And then when Michelle texted me, it was like 11:30 on a Friday. It was so, like, I really remember that moment because I had put, after my publisher went under, I was like, that's it, book's gone, that's it, it's not going to happen. Like in my very, like, fatalistic way, I was like, I gave her one chance and it didn't work, and that's that. And so when I took the book back out, I just didn't relate to it. And I kept thinking about, if I read this out, I'm not going to feel like myself. I'm going to feel embarrassed. I'm going to feel like I want to show everyone that I've grown. Not that anyone gives a fuck, but to me it was going to be uncomfortable to read a book that embodied an earlier perspective. Mm-hmm. So I rewrote the whole thing and sent it to her, and she was like, so that's not the book we talked about, So I had to do a ton more rewriting, but it was totally worth it. It was totally worth it because now I feel I relate to the book. It makes sense to me, and I can read it out and be like, that's the book I meant to write. I don't care if I don't relate to it in 10 years. That's the book I meant to write. That's the book that's published now. And it can stand as it is.
And it's so cool because it's the same character. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like, Paloma, X amount of years later, like the continued adventures of Paloma.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, I wanted to ask you also about, I really like and was just thinking a lot about the way that you write about addiction in the book and the way that you capture Peter's addiction, and also the way that Paloma seems to have possibly her own addiction that's not really addressed. And I feel like you are a person in the world that I know you're like savvy about addiction kind of stuff. Like I feel like you get it to me. And you crafted these characters who sort of are ignorant of their own. And I just wondered about like what was that like? It was like you weren't really inserting your own knowledge necessarily of addiction into it. You allowed these people to like not know as much as you do. And I wondered if that was tricky.
Yeah, it was, because there's a lot of time that I wanted to do the thing where you reassure the reader, like, don't worry, there's a smarter person. I'm like, no one needs to know what I think about this. It doesn't matter what I think about this. It's more interesting if you hear the character speaking from where they're at, and if you can write from an addict standpoint with compassion and be like, I do not like that fly, and I find it very rude.
This fly is making me insane.
Hanging out in this area.
It's terrible. Yeah.
But I feel
very
like
literary fly.
I feel like that it was nice to not narrate that. It kind of bothers me sometimes when people write and you know that they just want to show you that there's a smarter person behind it all. And the same thing with like acting or whatever. It just seems so discompassionate to think that you have to be so wise. You don't have to be a fucking wise person. Like no one needs to be a spiritual leader. That makes me crazy. There's enough spiritual leaders in the world. You can just be a regular messed up person. You know what I mean?
Yes. If someone's live tweeting this, please tweet that. because that's really great.
I have a white friend that recently took up Buddhism, and it's very frustrating because it's just like she can't be messed up. She always has to just like be like, that's just the person in their process. You know, when I'll say like, that's annoying, she'll be like, that's just where they're at. I'm like, I don't fucking care. I know that that's where they're at. I'm reflecting that I don't enjoy where they're at right now. It's okay to not like that. I don't need to be evolved in some weird way that is just fake anyway, because I'm just performing a thing of being all, I'm smart enough to know that they're in their process. Who cares? You know what I mean? Be annoyed by something.
God damn it. Yes.
So,
why did you decide to, because there is so much stuff that's personal to you, and Paloma is so many like shades of you, why did you choose to do a novel instead of a memoir? Did you make a conscious decision around that, or?
Yes. I think originally that I did. I think that it maybe made it a little less emotional to write about my brother if it wasn't exactly my story, if I wasn't beholden to that. And also whenever I try to write something like in a more memory way or as it happened, then I'll get obsessed with like, but is that exactly how it felt? Mm-hmm. And then like later I'll look at it and be like, that wasn't right, you know, and this was right. And so it felt easier to fictionalize it. And it also, I felt like it made it a little gentler on my family. Like I would rather not have something that was just like horrific for my mom. I'm sure my dad will never read it. He'll be like, I'm absolutely positive that he thinks that I maybe wrote like a pamphlet in my bathroom. He always has like a very just like, I know she does stuff, but I don't know if other people, like, I think he suspects that maybe the world thinks that I'm kind of a sad person, or so, you know, that he's like, I don't know if she succeeds much. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know that it'll ever hurt his feelings. But I very largely thought of my mom, and I was like, I'd rather not put my mother through reliving this whole thing with her child. There are other things that I've absolutely put her through, and I'm sure I will to the day I die. But this was not one of those things.
Makes sense. Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
Yeah, there's other shit like that I'll say that I'll keep between us that's difficult, but not this.
Yeah. Do you want to read a little bit more from your book, please?
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah. There are seats up here, you guys, and you can sit. And
5 of them.
And there's it's a no splash.
Yeah.
Zone.
Hi, Betsy. Yeah.
Hi.
Good. Okay. Yes. Let's get again. You guys, that makes 3 motherfucking seats. Okay. Okay. So at some point now, she's been brought into the trim business, and her role there is that she brings weed to celebrities. So she does like pot shows, brings like suitcases full of different kinds of weed in pretty little jars. And then she goes to a high-end hotel and like sets up displays, and people can come to her room, and she tells them what each of them does, and like, you know, so she's a broker. My hotel, the Moo, is nuts. You walk in and the entry room is like the library of a trophy hunter. Wait, no. Oh, my God, that's the grossest. Those are the worst people. Like someone who is rich but also an outdoorsman. There are geodes on the shelves. There's a basket with glass balls, some thick volumes of literature, canonical man shit like War and Peace. There are little ship sculptures and more ephemera that's random but still cohesive and classy. The shelves are wood. The couches are leather. There's a clear glass pitcher of water with cucumbers and lemons in it, and tumblers next to it. It's not even plastic cups. This joint must cost thousands per night, not even for the fanciest rooms. Rigo had the people who are bringing me here book the room. I'm on the west side of Los Angeles, apparently. Everyone I've run into looks fancy. I feel self-conscious about my finger tattoos. My room is vast, and I have 2 queen beds. There's a separate room with a lounge area and TV. What if I spent every last dime I had staying here, and then the day I left, I had no plan of what to do with the rest of my life? That would be dark. I bet some people do it. They don't let themselves think about the giant anvil hanging over their heads. I'm seeing the lady tonight and the guy tomorrow. I unzip my big wheelie bag and take out all my samples. I bought pretty bluebell bars to hold the buds, and then these other vintage Pyrex containers for the edibles. It looks beautiful. I have a batik cloth and some candles, though I'm concerned the candles push it over into feeling contrived, like I'm an Avon lady. But I do think most people like a show and a world to immerse themselves in, so I light the damn candles. I receive a text that Embers is a folk star. I receive a text that Embers is on her way to my room. I've been instructed not to ask anything about her personal or professional life unless she brings it up. I faxed a signed NDA to her lawyer. Honestly, what do I care about a 25-year-old folk musician? It's a little self-important of them to think that I even know who she is, much less I'm dying to Barbara Walters her face off. How about my writer says she can't ask about me? What if I simply find it intolerable to be questioned by an ambitious musician? I never agreed to think anyone was better than me just because they're famous, and frankly, I resent having any conversation predicated on that idea. There is a single firm knock at my door. My posture is pretty good, isn't it? I can feel that I'm sitting in a certain way. Okay. There's a single firm knock at my door. I get up and pull it open just a crack, like I'm not sure who's there. Upon seeing an enormous bodyguard whose physical person is like a pickup truck turned on end, I open the door wider. "Good evening, sir," I say with a deferential bowing of my chin, closing my eyes. "Welcome." He enters alone and takes a couple minutes to inspect my space. Then he gets the lady, who arrives with another bodyguard, equally huge, though differently distributed in the realm of body mass. If the first guy is a pickup truck on its end, this guy is more of an anaconda digesting a hippo. His head is little, bald, and pointed, and he is quite wide through the middle. Embers is beside him, a study in the disease that is charisma. She absolutely shines. You would have to be made of cigarette butts and styrofoam to ignore her draw. Her soft lips reflexively part into a large smile, and her eyes dance. This is some Kennedy-level chemical manipulation. She's wearing a cream-colored peasant blouse, suede shorts, and matching booties. Why would you wear anything but sweatpants when you're not performing or going out to dinner? Sweatpants are the only real way for your body to be free. Otherwise, there's a seam up your vagina, a wrinkle is digging into your armpit, and your boobs hanging out at a horrible angle or grotesquely emphasized by a distortion, making you look pornographically available when you don't want to be. To avoid all of that, you have to yank and pull and arrange your dumb outfit every minute, which no one can honestly say they want to do. I guess the overall comforts of being rich could make minor inconveniences like an ill-fitting shirt or pants drifting north less of a bother. Who knows what those people think beyond, "I better marry someone of my class," and "My siblings and I all went to prestigious universities and are now doing important work." Do I think there are rich people who live without a hole inside themselves? Probability tells me there must be, but popular evidence begs to differ. "I brought you a little gift bag," Ember says, handing me a shiny black bag. "Oh, wow, you didn't need to do that," I sputter. "Don't worry about it, girl," she says, and starts looking around my display on the table. She pulls off lids, inhales, murmurs approvingly. I dig through my gift bag, and there are little soaps, the jar of face cream, a bottle of perfume, and a gift certificate to a massage place, which pretty much cements that I'll come down here anytime she wants me to. I take a deep breath and launch into my spiel. Okay, so I have a range of products here that can do things like treat anxiety, help you sleep, make your mind sharp, make you... I pause because I loathe the word horny, but I can't think of any other word that has that meaning. Make you, want to screw. I have salves for aching muscles and some stuff that's really good for period cramps. I have tampons that are soaked in CBD that really make your cramps go away. She picks up every little jar, and I give her samples of several kinds. The names of these strains are generally predictable hippie riffs. Ben and Gary, Wavy Lady, Purple Phase, Nutribrain. Do I think this lady's cute? I do. But I can't decide if it carries a sexual note to it. Sometimes I just want to have sex with a lady, and I think it's an animal thing more than a monogamous love thing. It just seems fun to roll around with a woman who's kind of like me in the gender way, a couple of broomsticks with wigs on them tumbling around in bed. Why do people have sex anyway? I feel my body want it, but my mind is not strongly pulled in any way beyond what feels like curiosity. What will it be like to be naked next to this person? Will we make fun of anything? Will we like the same stuff? What gross moles does she have? What's her vagina doing? Well, I go in thinking I'm casual, then be so in love I can't get my life together without this woman I thought I was only boning. I went to my friend Steve's wedding a few years ago. He's from Texas. I wore a cute sundress, or kind of cute. It looked like it was made of someone's bold curtain choice, I guess, like in Sound of Music. The dress was black and white. I walked into the bathroom, and lots of blonde Texan ladies were gathered around the mirror, fixing their makeup. I walked in, and they looked at me, and then one of them exclaimed, "Oh my God, you're so pretty!" And I won't deny it made me feel good. Then I had a bunch of ladies around me just fawning and being sweet in an utterly confusing but deeply enjoyable way. I wanted us all to have sex. To get in bed with our hair and our legs and fuck each other, bat boobs and giggle. I was surprised for this to become one of my sexual fantasies. Before this moment, I would have considered that some shallow bullshit, but now I understand it as shallow perfection. I had a girlfriend at that time, and she loved bringing up the Texas cheerleaders. I don't know if they were actually cheerleaders, but I took that erotic liberty to get me going. It really worked. It made me uncomfortable, to be honest, and about liking those ladies. It just felt so normal, so expected. Can I have a thing about a bunch of Wiccan bitches? No. Deep down, I'm just a basic idiot. Embers buys a jar of muscle salve, a bunch of sativa hybrid gummies, and 2 ounces of 4 different kinds of weed I'm carrying. I entertain sometimes, she says. Cool, I say. I text my brother in code to let him know what I sold. Holy fuck, dude, you're killing, he writes back. I'm happy. I eat a brownie and watch episodes of 48 Hours in bed until I fall asleep.
Oh, it's so good. Oh my God. That was amazing. Tara, I don't feel like you're much of like a weed person. Like, how did you know all that about weed? When did you do weed research?
I did do weed research.
What did you do?
I talked to some of my friends who are growers and brokers and stuff like that. Like at one point, I talked to my friend, and I would do a thing where I'd like meet her in a restaurant, and it seemed like she, like kind of like all like my friends who were hookers, who were like sometimes. Remember how Kirk used to have to unload his stories?
Yeah.
After he'd have like weird tricks and stuff, he'd have to just like call and talk about what happened. And I felt like my friend had to just really wanted to tell these fucking stories because she was just walking around carrying this stuff around. So one time when we got together, I was like, there must be celebrity weed dealers, right? And she was like, oh yeah, oh absolutely, we deal to whatever people. And I was like, cool. So I just asked her a bunch of different, and I had way more research than went into the book, so I was kind of bummed I couldn't like dork out about that. But it didn't serve the story, so I couldn't.
You have to kill your darlings sometimes.
Yeah, you really do.
You really do.
Yeah.
Do they really have CBD oil tampons? Is that a real thing? Everyone's like, I'm wearing one right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Yeah. And they are supposed to be extremely good for cramps.
Wow.
Let's all take one.
Do any of you have questions for Tara Jepsen?
About 44 years old, Scorpio. Who's next? Green Bay, Wisconsin. Come on.
I have more. I won't let this get too awkward, but I thought, yes.
Who are some of your inspirational authors?
That's what I was going to ask her too. This is great.
God, you guys,
this is great.
I really love Jennifer Egan. I really love Cookie Mueller. I have my sort of usual list of like our friend Justin Chin was an incredible poet who I love. James Baldwin, everybody says that, but you know what? It's true, so I'm going to say it anyway. Those are some good. That's a good place to start.
Yeah. What about like you're such like a reader, and you're also such like a movie watcher and a TV watcher. Like you really partake of culture. What are
stories? You know what I mean? It's just
you're a real lover of stories.
I think people are interested.
You like podcasts.
I do.
Okay, so what are some movies that you feel like kind of jazzed about right now?
I mean, Moonlight. See, that's kind of like saying a James Baldwin thing.
No, but
everybody loves it. But that's
legit.
It's so beautiful. I like all that 70s stuff. Woman Under the Influence, all that. Just people who I like stories. Am I saying anything, or is it all something I read somewhere? I'm like, I like complicated people. I like people. I like seeing stories about people who are feeling things and who are like acting. I don't know. I listen to a lot of murder podcasts. I listen to a lot of true crime stuff. I don't know why. It's very disgusting.
Why? The fly just landed on my nose.
God damn it. I think it's rude.
What's up with why do you think, okay, I was just at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios, and they were like, while I was waiting in some absurdly long line they were just showing basically commercials on a big screen to entertain us. And they kept showing these commercials for Oxygen, which I believe was a women's network started by Oprah Winfrey, yes? The Oxygen Network. It's being rebranded as the network for crime.
Really?
It's all true crime. And I'm like, what is it about ladies and murder? Like,
I feel
you
like because
love it,
being
and like I know so many other females who just like binge watch Forensic
These
Files.
are the sentences I like to say about that. I feel like because being female is so terrifying so much of the time, that there's something kind of relieving about listening to and watching murder stuff, because you're like, see, it is fucking scary. Like, I feel like when I watch that stuff, it confirms how utterly terrifying and vulnerable you feel. And even though like the stories are horrific and are someone's terrible story. I mean, I actually have been watching Nightline and seen like my friend's story about my friend's sister. I mean, it's so fucked up. But I really think that there's something a little bit affirming about it. About just yeah.
Because you can feel crazy sometimes when you walk around with the level of like sort of compartmentalized stress, and like there's nothing in your vision all day that's suggesting that like you're actually a terrorized person among other terrorized people. So it is, I guess, a weird relief like that.
It is to me. Yeah. Because I'm like, I don't need to explain anything here. We all know that it's fucking fucked up, and that's someone else is doing the explaining right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not saying it isn't despicable and used for entertainment. It is, but that's where I'm at, man.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Judgment,
so can you be the Buddha now? Can you be the spiritual leader and just accept that this is where I'm at?
Does anyone else have questions? Yeah.
Okay, so switching from murder, I wanted to talk about, I opened up the book to page 89, and...
Can everybody open their books to 89?
Talking about Paloma skating this pool, and it's no way it's a girl. Fuck yeah, someone also said you skate, blah, blah. It's that... I've just read a couple of pages in, but I've had this conversation, been encountered with this conversation. I've been skateboarding for 15 years.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation ever since people started perceiving me as being a woman, and it's absolutely absurd. These guys. How does your experience as a skateboarder, from a generation where there were almost no women skateboarders, like 3 illicit steamers, like how did that go into the creation of this character? And I'm interested in your personal experience.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I started skateboarding at 36 years old. So I haven't actually been, So I'm like late adult onset skateboarding. But that's what my friend Michelle Lawler says. But, so I think I didn't get that stuff when I was younger. I just notice it sometimes now. And of course there are a lot more women do you like it when people call women females? There's a lot more females out there right now. And, don't you feel so fucked when people say that they're all just one finger? But when they call you females.
I had to Google the other day why that was bad, because I just didn't understand. I felt
just
so
ignorant.
ignorant.
It feels like a thing. Like it feels.
No, it was on BuzzFeed. A writer on BuzzFeed really broke it down with gifs of like Rihanna flipping the bird and stuff. So I really understood.
Have you ever shared a thought and then it turned out it was done by BuzzFeed before you said it? Feels good. Hi, farmer. Looking sharp. So my experience with that is that there are still a lot of times that I am the only woman in a session, especially if it comes to like skating pools or whatever, and you have like a tiny crew of people out. And I do like it when there are other women with me, but there's just not a lot of women in pool skating. So I do run into it a lot. And I have like had fallings out with other people, with like guys that when I was like, I wish you wouldn't use the word stinky pink. And I wish you wouldn't have to like grind over the books. And that it wasn't like nonstop beaver jokes the whole fucking time, you know? And that it was kind of like when I used to landscape and go on to, construction sites, like if I was working with contractors and they would kind of try to make a point when you walked onto the project, they're like, we don't care that you're here, and the way to show that is to make like the grossest jokes about women's bodies humanly possible. And you're just like, you can also just do your fucking job and leave me alone. So anyway, answer your question? Kind of? Yeah. Okay, yes. Yeah. Anecdotes. Yeah. Yes.
Would anyone else like to solicit an anecdote from Tara?
Yes.
I was going to ask you, like, I'll give you, like, the tame, I was going to ask you, like, do you have any, like, writing rituals or, like, things that you do when you set yourself down and you're like, I'm going to make work today?
Mm-hmm.
My real question is, how do you make work when you're going through a really difficult time?
Well, it's happened in different ways. Sometimes work is a refuge. Like years ago, after my brother died, my friend Beth and I, who I have written with a lot, wrote a short film. And it was like every time she came over, I knew I was just going to have like a few hours of just laughing, and it felt amazing. It was a real gift. I find lately, like I have a stand-up show next week on the 13th. You guys, come out to the Virgil, okay?
Go see Tara do stand-up. It's so fucking
It'll be
funny, as you might imagine.
But the thing is, though, that it's actually kind of hard to write right now because I'm in an anxiety attack most parts of most days because the news is so terrible. And I'm just that kind of person. Like, I'm permeable that way. I don't have or maybe everyone, I don't know. I'm the uniqueness of being a feeling person. Not really, right? But I just, so I'm having a hard time writing some of that stuff right now. And maybe comedy is more, like I would have an easier time right now working on like a pilot or something. I could write other stuff. But comedy, I don't know if the comedy is more personal or whatever the fuck it is. But I can usually write kind of any time, I find. It's a relief. I like to light candles sometimes. Draw a bath. Just kidding. I never draw a bath. But I'll light candles and like make a cup of coffee. I don't have any particular ritual, and I don't have any kind of schedule to it. I will just always be writing because I'll always be doing something creative, I think. Yeah,
Tara, in addition to writing this novel, she writes pilots, she writes screenplays, she writes for performance. She's done like shows. Her writing with Beth Lissick, they do like a lot of sketch comedy. They've done like two people shows. She does comedy. She writes stand up. Like, what is there anything in that you feel like the most affinity towards, or is it all sort of like one big stew?
I really love doing all of it, but I think that this book is the distillation of of my favorite combination of comedy, and I like deep emotional stuff. I really do. And I feel like right now, obviously, we need comedy. People need relief and stuff. And there's a part of me that just like, I don't know. I feel comfortable putting comedy out in the world. I don't always feel like there's as much room to put out more emotional stuff, or I don't always know what the place is for that. Even though I really like writing that stuff. Like, if I could just, pull up, I don't want to give anything away, but if I could pull up and read, like, the most emotionally intense parts of this book when I did readings, I totally would.
You can do that.
Do you think so?
I do think you can do that, because this isn't a comedy jam. You know what I mean? It is literature, and so I think people show up ready to accept whatever emotion. Most books I think contain like a range of emotions, so I think everyone's just ready for whatever you're gonna lay down. Yeah,
I know that when I see other people, I appreciate it when they read more like intense or poetic elements of what they've written, but for some reason I think because I just always want to like entertain, I have that compulsion.
I understand that. I do too. I think that there's something about when you read something funny, the audience laughs and they're with you. And if you're reading something heavy, people are quiet, and it just you get like increasingly alienated the deeper you get into it, and then you have an existential crisis. Yeah, even though everyone's probably is every bit as engaged as when you're reading something funny.
Right. Yeah,
but you just have to like know that when you get into it and be like, I'm gonna lay a big bummer on them, and we're all gonna be together, and it's gonna be okay.
I always hope there's something relieving about writing as truthfully as I possibly can about an intense emotional situation. Like, to me, I hope that it alleviates some amount of anxiety. I hope that it gives words to a kind of feeling so that there's some amount of relief. Like, I feel like the overall thing that I would like to do with any performance or thing that I ever do is give some amount of relief to people, because that's how I am.
Yes. And that's how your book is. And so, like a dog, here it is. And it's got all the hilarity that you heard tonight. Plus, it's got all this depth and pathos and pain and beautiful thoughtfulness that Tara is alluding to. So you should buy at least one copy for yourself. You should buy a copy also for somebody in your life, maybe who's like a homosexual. You should buy a copy for someone who's maybe like a skateboarder. You should maybe buy a copy for someone who like is like a stand-up comedian, or maybe like should be a stand-up comedian.
It's a very slim volume.
Like a funny
it's
person.
Almost a Neruda. You could balance a table with it.
Please clap for Tara Jepsen for writing this great book and being so awesome. And your next...
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for...
And your next appearance will be at the Virgil
on the 13th.
All right, that's awesome. And what else? Anything else?
I think just San Francisco after that, October 25th and 27th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
At City Lights and then at the Unity Skate Shop in the East Bay in Oakland.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much, Skylight.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, Skylight.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget you can listen to this and all our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.